Hello, welcome back to History of Education in the Foundation of Education. Today we are starting the Module 8, which is Contemporary Issues in Education History. And we are going to look at the current and future education system. This is your host, Dr. Tulipo Mwenfumbo, and remember that this course is being sponsored and is coming with the help of Mukuba College of Education, and this is an intensive diploma in teaching methodology, which is 100% online and sponsored by the help of Alliance for World Missions. So we are going to look at the history of education module 8, that is contemporary issues in education history. And in lesson 10, we are looking at introduction. Once again, this is your host, Dr. Tulipo Mwenfumbo, and that's my line. If you want to call me, you can WhatsApp me on 2 plus 260 976 181253. Contemporary issues in educational history refer to the current challenges, debates, and concerns that are shaping the field of education today. These issues are often rooted in historical context. When we say it is from the background of history and what has been going on in the history. Now, one should bring it into this current, and the debates have been going on of which is a best way of bringing his education in this generation, but have evolved over time to reflect changing societal values, technology advancement, and shifting political landscape. So, these contemporary issues in education history reflect the complex, dynamic nature of education and the need for ongoing critical examination and improvement of education. So currently we are looking at the education in a contemporary way, and how can the education be taken best in this generation or at this time. So some of the contemporary issues in education history include reckoning with the past, confronting the legacy of colonialism, slavery, and systemic racism in education. So now, how are we going to work out? Because some of the things in education, they have got the influence of such historical event like colonialism, slavery, systemic racism in. So now you'd find that education has got some elements like that, even in the current education. Then, how are we going to decolonialize the education, like especially in Africa? We find that the education system that we have, it is the Western education system, where even the curriculums and even whatever that happens, you'd find that children are even learning about London Bridge falling down, which is still colonialism. So education has been colonialized, and in Africa we have got what is called African Education Act. This was the act which was implemented by the colonialists so that they may be able to give the education they want to enslave Africa. So now, how do we get out of that education? Because it is the same education that makes Africans not to thrive. Even no matter how much educated they become, they still remain with the servanthood mind, whereby they just wait for employment and they don't even think of initiating things, because they were just taught the education was designed just to work, for you to be a worker, not for you to be a master. So now, how do we incorporate the device perspective and challenging dominant narratives? The other thing, it is inclusive education, supporting students with disabilities. So this is the also the challenge, we have got very few education facilities that supports students with disabilities. Then also students that have got uh, different challenges in those living with disabilities and diverse learning needs. Education technology and digital divides. So the other thing that we want to look at education, it is balancing technology and integration with equity and access. So this is also the major concern when we look at education. Uh, like when technology is coming in, we would find that there are other children that are privileged to use technology and others are not privileged. So now how do we make education to be easy and simple for everyone? There's standardized versus creativity, debating the law of standardized testing and the curriculum standards. So that is also the challenge. Like the most of the current or exams, they are taught, they make students to memorize even things that they don't understand. It is not much of the student centered, so it does not encourage the diversity and it does not encourage the students to research. They just have to memorize what the teachers or the lecturers have taught them. So now, how can we be able to combine the standardized education and also the creativity in the students and also in the lecturers or teachers? Then on six, we are looking at also at teacher autonomy and professionalism. Now, when we talk about autonomy, how much power has the teacher been given to teach the students or the children the way he wants them to be? How much power has it been given to mentor the pupils or the students in a way he feels they have to be mentored? So they've getting the tension between accountability and teacher freedom. So you'd find that especially in the primary and secondary education where the you are taught what you have to do and the lesson plans has to follow a certain pattern and you just have to teach what you are being taught, and the mode of teaching has to be followed. So now how do you navigate that tension and accountability also with a teacher freedom, giving the teacher freedom to be able to work out? Then school choice and privatization. So now that is also another thing. Examining the impact of charter schools, vouchers, and private education. Now, when we talk about school privatization, we are talking about the independent schools or the private schools. Now, how do we combine the private schools and also the government schools? You'd find that there are a lot of challenges when we talk about public schools and also we talk about private schools. You'd find that those schools that have been that are private, they most of the time they do better than the government schools or the public schools. Now, what is the challenge and how does this bring about? What if the government schools were to be privatized and go into the private hands? How best will education become? So those are the things that looking at. Then civic education and critical thinking, fostering informed citizenship and media literacy. So education must be the current challenges and also debate in education is that education must incorporate civic education and critical thinking, fostering informed citizenship and media literacy, where the pupils and the student must be literate when it comes to civic things, when it comes to general issues of living in a certain or given country. Then mental health and wellness, addressing student well-being and self-care in schools. So this is also whereby students are and pupils are just dictated on what to do. But that is where now you look at the students and the pupils of their mental health and well-being, whereby you are not forcing the curriculum is there to make the students to enjoy the learning instead of the student or the pupils being it's like they are just forcing themselves to learn, but it has to be something very enjoying, not as a task, but one should know that it is for the betterment of them. Then globalization and international education, preparing students for interconnected world. So education should not just be local. As the curriculums are being made in the given country, they have to bear in mind that the students or the teachers they are and also the pupils they are being prepared for being as the world leaders, and also that they are able to interact with the globalization. So those are the things that uh, has to be looked at. So now let's look at the contemporary issues. There's some of the contemporary issues in education history are equitable funding. Despite in funding between schools in influence and disadvantaged areas. So we find that there are, when it comes to the funding of education, it is very inadequate. And you'd find that those that have money they get better education than those that don't have money. Then standardized testing, as we have talked about, debates around the effectiveness and fairness of high stakes testing. Then teacher shortages, we have the challenge of teacher shortages, recruiting and retaining teachers, particularly in certain subjects. You would find that this is the challenge that you are still facing in this current because of the inadequate funding in education system. Then we also the curriculum controversies, disputes over what should be taught in schools, including issues like climate change and cultural sensitivity. So you'd find that there are certain gaps that they want to bring in when it comes to teaching the challenges or the teaching what is happening in the given country. Like currently in Zambia, there is a debate where they want to include like issues of tribalism in the curriculum, so that children are being taught against tribalism. So those are some of the things that happens. How are they going to bring such issues? There are a lot of issues that have been left out. Now, how can they incorporate all the issues into the curriculum, which is not possible, whereby the pupils can learn everything that exists on earth. Then school choice and privatization, debates around charter schools, virtues, and law of private schools. Leisure and socio-economical segregation, persistent disparities in education opportunities and outcomes. Those that have got money, they have better education and they go into better schools and they go into better tertiary learnings. Then technology integration, balancing the benefits and the drawbacks of technology in the classroom. So now how do we balance up? Like we have got now what is called AI, where people should stop thinking and they should now just begin to use technology. Like they have to just to use the gadgets. In our days, you were a champion in school if you are able to memorize, or if you are able to find arithmetic in a just in a short period. So you'll be able to memorize or to be able to do multiplication and whatever. But this time you don't need those things because they are calculators which you just have to place, and it gives you an answer just in a second. So why should you now do all those things? We have got AI where you just have to ask the question and it gives you all the answers. Now, why should you memorize the things that you can just get them at any time that you want? So that is the issues. So now, when you look at that, how do we integrate the modern technology and also the education today? The mental health, supporting students' mental health and well-being in schools. Immigration and language barriers, addressing the needs of immigrants, English language learners, students. So now we find that now it's like each country and each there is each one wants to support their own language. So now, how do we bring the language into learning? Then crime exchange, incorporating crime exchange into curriculum and promoting sustainability, sex education and LGBT or issues, controversies around sex education. So now, bringing in education like in education whereby there is a sex freedom. I think here we heard this about this in Zambia, where they were debating on the incorporating sex education in schools, and whereby children should know their sexual rights. So those are the things. Then also putting in this the LGBT, the rights of lesbian and also homosexuals. So those are the debates that are going on. Then accessibility and inclusive education, ensuring schools are accessible and inclusive for students with disabilities. Thank you so much for having this lesson, and I believe we are getting somewhere. And I want us to know now, how can we best create the education that is contemporary and education that can be used in the 21st centuries. This is your host, Dr. Tulipo Mwenfumbo. Remember that this session is brought to you by Mukuba College of Education. You can inquire and enroll the programs that we are offering at Mukuba College of Education. Remember, we have got also the sponsored computer learning, which is being sponsored by CDF. So you can encourage people to enroll on this program. Thank you so much. This is your host, Dr. Tulipo Mwenifumbo. See you in the next class.